Microphones. How you doing, Lieutenant? Thank you for coming on the program tonight.
It's great to be with you again. It's been about a year.
Been a while, yes. Lieutenant Choi is a West Point graduate, an Iraq veteran, fluent in Arabic, came out on national television in March of 2009 and was discharged as a result. What's your current status, by the way?
Well, I've been discharged honorably about a year now as a civilian, and I have asked to get reinstated, but of course with all of these decisions and the changing of the decisions and the appeals, it's been quite a circus, and so the official word is that my attempt to get back, my application to get back in is on hold.
Here you are, a guy, you want to serve your country. That's all you're asking to do. And it's so confusing because apparently, before we get into the whole issue of what gay service members still won't get, even though Don't Ask, Don't Tell may be repealed, the Obama administration is in a weird position where they're supporting repeal, but they're filing court motions to stop it from happening faster than planned, in spite of the fact that a court kind of would like to move forward quicker. Can you explain that? I don't know what the administration's doing here.
Well, in the Army, we would call that double talk. I don't know if you use the same word as civilians, but you can't say that you want to institute the American principles of fairness and simply stop kicking out soldiers in a time of war when we need them, and then appeal the decision. Basically, what the court does is it does all the heavy lifting for you, and they've done this before. Actually, about a year ago, they had a little less than a year ago, they had the same exact decision, and everybody was saying, "Oh, calm down, everybody, you activists. You know, Obama has to do that." And every lawyer that's told them say he doesn't have to appeal. Eminent lawyers from Jonathan Turley to Ted Olson have said there's no reason why the president has to appeal, and the president has stopped appealing on other legal issues like the Defense of Marriage Act. So now what we're seeing as people in the gay community, we're wondering if the president's commitment to LGBT equality and for the gay service members, if it's actually genuine.
I don't get it. A federal appeals court on July 6th ordered the government to immediately stop enforcement of Don't Ask, Don't Tell after the Justice Department filed an emergency motion asking the court to reconsider its order. The court then on Friday of last week reinstated the law, but with a caveat that prevents the government from investigating or penalizing anybody who's openly gay. So there's no teeth to the law, but yet the administration seems to be on record through the Justice Department of wanting to say, hey, not so fast.
Well, here's what's going on, Helen, and it's a bigger issue than just gay service members. Of course, it hits home, and it really hurts the heart of any gay service member who right now is in limbo. For example, there's been 3 Air Force service members who are going through the process, and they go into work every day now wondering if this is going to be their last day. So their packet goes up to the Secretary of the Air Force. They've had to endure this entire journey, this very questionable future for their career, and all, like you said, all they want to do is serve their country. And what we want from the President and from the Department of Justice is a clear commitment to the full repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and we're not getting that.
There are a number of things that, even with the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, that still do not portend equality. Same-sex partners can be listed as a person to be notified in the case of a service member is killed or injured, but not same-sex spouses from learning the details of the death. You can't get the details of the death. Gay spouses are denied military ID cards. Means they can't be allowed on bases unless they're accompanied by a service member. They can't shop at commissaries and get reduced prices for groceries and clothing. So there are a number of things that are still going to be lacking in equality, even with the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
Of course, and it's as if we ask the straight listeners when they say, what a big deal, why are you complaining about all this? Well, we ask them when they go to work, if they had to hide their love life, and if they could never put a picture of their partner, their husband or wife or boyfriend or girlfriend, fiance, on their desk, if they asked about children, and wonder why their colleagues would wonder why they're dancing around the question and why you're a confirmed bachelor. Why would anybody call themselves that? I don't understand, but it goes beyond that, Alan. When there is a soldier right now, for instance, who, while we're on the radio and people are listening to the radio, they're listening to the news wondering if this is the last night that their soldier is going to be alive. And if this is that night where their soldier, that loved one, the number one person in the entire world for them, if that's their last breathing moment on this earth, they won't get notified. They won't get that American flag on bended knee by that general who says, for the honor and for the dignity of service, we commend you and we thank you for supporting your family member, for supporting your service member, your veteran, your devotee to this country. And I think that's the greatest insult of all, is that we don't support all of our families. And we talk about it all the time when we have those yellow ribbons and the magnets on our cars, some of us. When we wear that and when we say we support our troops, we should ask ourselves, do we just support some of our troops, or do we support all of our troops?
I love to support the troops. You only support the straight troops, or the only ones? Let me ask you about your own legal situation, because the U.S. Assistant Attorney Angela George has announced they're putting you on trial August 29th.
I knew you were going to talk about that.
Yeah. They're going to put you on trial for demonstrating in front of the White House last November?
Well, it's an insult to the First Amendment that I'm being charged federally, and it's the first time. It's a dubious distinction, and it's one that honestly I wouldn't want for anybody, but it's the first federal charge for protesting since Alice Paul in 1917 at the White House. So I don't know why this president wants to create no protest zones or free speech zones, because I think whenever you diminish the territories of free speech in this country, you diminish America.
Why do you think they're singling out you?
Well, I think it's a fear tactic to tell anybody else who's willing to protest the military or the government or the president or any political leader, or even ask for redress of grievances in such a loud way as what I did and the 13 of us did. I think it's very clear that this is politically motivated. We have asked the prosecutor to drop the charges. We've asked them to drop them down to a municipal level charge, which is where it should be. And the answer from Angela George was that we were not, quote, sufficiently boisterous, to which I could certainly disagree and demonstrate.
You were not sufficiently boisterous. I don't know. What does that mean?
Well, they said in order to drop the charge down to a disorderly conduct charge, we would have to have reached a certain kind of disorderly conduct.
Well, if you weren't disorderly, what were you?
Well, we did say that President Obama is a political homophobe. I don't think he liked that very much. But it was speech that was certainly within our First Amendment rights to say that homophobia is a fear of gay people and political homophobia is a fear of tackling gay issues. So that is the message we were trying to put out. Obama didn't like that, and we were telling him to get over his fear.
You think he's aware of the fact that you are facing these charges?
If he's not aware, then I don't think he's a good president.
What about this charge of violating a federal regulation prohibiting interfering with agency functions?
Well, I think that when people consider that we were not the ones that were violently tackling soldiers to the ground, we were not the ones blocking traffic for those. Everybody who sees the picture sees that we're actually on the White House ledge, the defense ledge, and we're elevated. We're not blocking anybody's pedestrian traffic, and whatever agency functions that they needed to accomplish, they did it just fine.
Yeah.
And for my part, I pled not guilty because there is no actual law that says I cannot chain myself up to the White House.
What could you get on this? What kind of sentence? Could you wind up in jail over this?
6 months in federal penitentiary.
Really?
And a $5,000 fine, both of which I refused to, even at that point, to admit guilt. There's nothing that should make me feel guilty in any way.
Are the 12 others being similarly charged?
They were, and they took a plea bargain, unfortunately, but we had to honor that. What the prosecution tried to do was wire us all together, which I think in and of itself is, I think it's misconduct on part of the prosecution for them to say, look, if one of you does not take this deal, y'all are wired together, so the deal is off the table and you're all going to go to jail. It's essentially what they were telling us. That's not an exaggeration. And those other 12 are now on probationary status.
But you didn't take the deal, so why did they allow the deal to go through?
They did because they were so embarrassed that they even tried that tactic, essentially pitting me against the other 12. I think that's a common tactic of the prosecution in certain criminal cases, and I think it was wrong for us to all have one lawyer, but that's just my thinking. We all have our sovereignty over what we believe we should be able to fight, and I think for them to infringe upon that is dangerous to the First Amendment and really also to our rights as
I'm amazed this administration, a Democratic administration, would be doing this. I really find it remarkable.
I'm surprised that any president would be allowing this to happen, and honestly, with all of this, my entire journey, look, Alan, I've never had a political party, and I've never had severe distrust for the government. Of course, I served in the government as a soldier, and I've served this country best of my ability. But now, at this point, there's been such a mistrust that's built up in my heart, and it's very difficult for me to trust anybody in power after all that I've gone through.
Well, we'll be following this case. I thank you for telling us about it, and thanks for fighting the fight, Dan. Appreciate you coming on the show.
No, I appreciate you talking about the issues.
Thanks very much.